Hello everyone, and welcome back. This time, I have prepared a tale for all of you. So please, make yourself comfortable, turn out the lights, and turn the volume up. Because it's story time, and oh, what a time it will be. Before we begin, I do want to warn you that this particular tale involves some sensitive subjects. And some of the events we will talk about are pretty serious in nature. So if you do not feel comfortable hearing about such things, it is okay to turn this off and go watch something more tame. However, if you choose to stick around, just remember, you were warned. Looking through old photos is a fun and memorable time, allowing one to reminisce and reflect on the past. But what happens when the photos aren't like you remember? What happens when there is something off? Where did that figure come from? Was it always there? Why is it also in this one? What is going on? Cameras have been widely known to pick up on things that we can't see, and sometimes it appears to be nothing. Maybe a lens flare, or some dust caught on the lens. But what about that person standing behind the tree? Or in the doorway? It could just be someone playing a prank, jumping into frame at the last minute. Or it could be something much worse. But the creepiest part is when you put the camera down, and it's still there. In 2009, some photos appeared that would shape an entire decade of fear, in more ways than you can imagine. One photo was of a lovely day, with clear skies and children playing on a tall slide in a field. Everyone's happy and smiling, but in the back, next to a lone tree, surrounded by 4 children, is a figure that you can't quite make out, with what looks like tentacles coming out of its back and arms. The caption from this photo read as such: "One of 2 recovered photographs from the Sterling City Library blaze, notable for being taken the day which 14 children vanished, and for what is referred to as the Slenderman. Deformities cited as film defects by officials. Fire at library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence. 1986. Photographer, Mary Thomas, missing since June 13th, 1986. The other picture was much darker in nature, with a group of kids walking through what looks like a field, seemingly confused or upset, with this tall figure again lurking in the back. The caption for this told more of a chilling event. We didn't want to go. We didn't want to kill them. But its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time." 1983. Photographer unknown. Presumed dead. Slenderman. A tall, imposing figure wearing a suit and tie, with unnaturally long limbs, pure white skin, and no face. This figure has haunted people for years. It started out as photographs, then even more photographs, then stories and video logs. The more people that knew about him, the more he appeared. Slenderman grows in power the more people know about him, which is why he's been rather scarce these last few years. Which is also why I had the warning in the beginning, because who knows what could happen the more this information spreads. It was originally thought that all Slenderman did was stalk his victims and take them. Most of his targets were kids and young adults, but as years have gone by and more evidence became known, it appeared to be so much more. The definition of sadistic refers to pleasure being derived from pain, suffering, anguish, and humiliation. And I feel like this is the best word to describe Slenderman. While most monsters will devour you, tear you limb from limb, and just get to the point, he doesn't really touch you. All his victims are driven mad, overcome by his presence, seeing him everywhere, debilitated by his sickness, coughing up blood, lapses in memory, amnesia, and extreme paranoia that he has instilled within you. It is not until the very end, when you give in to him and you have lost everything, that you are taken. And there is no violence here. You just vanish without a trace. Or you become a proxy to help spread this sickness and further his reach. This sickness can spread through any contact, and no one is safe. The moment you see him, the moment he latches onto someone, the more he spreads, the more powerful he gets. Playing the role of a puppet master, or as many will say, an operator. Your family will be targeted, your friends will suffer, and he will do everything in his power to leave you as an empty shell, until either you end it or you give in. Remember this, the best thing we can all do is just forget he exists. At first, none of this was known, and the pictures that were uncovered were just the start of a disastrous chain of events that would last for a decade. Quickly after the photos, video documentation started to appear, the first of which is widely known. But these videos take place both in the past and present day for the time they were uploaded, and this is the first real video evidence we have of anything happening. Marble Hornets was a film project that was discarded by its creator after things started going horribly wrong. However, instead of destroying the tapes, another member of the team wanted to hold on to them, and eventually began to go through them years later, posting the tapes online. Now, I'm not going to explain everything that goes on, but the creators were all haunted by his presence, and some even became his proxies. The footage is highly distorted, and time was twisted along with reality, and upon reviewing the footage, the events repeated themselves, and got worse for those involved. If you want to see everything in full detail, then I highly recommend going over and watching the videos on the Marble Hornets channel. However, like everything else we have talked about so far, do this at your own risk. While that was the first instance of video footage, there are so many more, and each one revealed something else, something new. The more Slenderman was seen, the more people suffered. The Everyman Hybrid crew, which originally started out as a fitness channel on YouTube, started out with a man dressed as Slenderman in the first few videos. It was supposed to be a joke, and funny. However, this led to them actually being haunted by Slenderman and the other creatures that followed him. The videos from the Everyman Hybrid channel documented everything that started happening, and showed Slenderman's ability to distort reality and time more effectively, with each member falling off one by one, plagued by the influence that he carries, and hunted by the creatures that follow his influence. The events for all of this ended January 1st, 2019, and serves as the longest and most detailed documentation of events. All of these are still up and ready to be viewed at your own discretion, of course. Around the same time, in June of 2010, a person who was plagued by the death of a family member started his own investigation. And what started with it was his descent into madness. The channel Tribe 12 recorded everything that took place, documenting a single person suffering, plagued by Slenderman and his proxies, doing everything in their power to take him. Again, the videos are distorted, time and reality seems broken, and one thing is for sure: the torment was endless, and the suffering was immeasurable. Another channel documenting the pain and suffering of an individual comes from the channel M.L. Anderson, and the events that are shown here further solidify the sadistic nature of Slenderman, with him going after family and friends, all with the intent to get one person. The final video documentation I want to note comes from the channel Dark Harvest, which started out as a channel trying to document paranormal activity in a house, but it quickly spirals down into a series of events, first with proxies believed to be stalkers, then with Slenderman himself, all leading up to an investigation to a cult known as the Order. The events that happen in these videos depict what we already know about Slenderman: the sickness, the distortion, and the suffering, with the added terror of a cult dedicated to it. There are many others who have suffered at the hands of Slenderman, and many have taken it upon themselves to record what is going on, so that we may know the dangers. But in recording these happenings, Slenderman gets what he wants, and his reach grows ever further. I know I always tell you to stay curious, but curiosity did kill the cat. And while all these videos are readily available to you, I can't protect you from what might happen upon their viewing. Now, whenever something gains notoriety, people tend to gravitate to it, regardless of what the subject matter is, or the monster that lurks within. Slenderman is no different, and would break not just the internet, but reality as well, with the events that followed his rise being both innocent and horrifying. Apart from his photos, stories, and videos, there were numerous violent events where the authorities cited Slenderman's influence being the motive, with murder, suicide, and arson being the most notorious. However, because these events were so horrific and still exist as an open wound for the individuals involved, I'm leaving this here. If you want to research these events yourself, I won't stop. However, some things are better left alone, and I wish I would have had that warning before looking into it myself. On the lighter side of events, Slenderman has inspired multiple video games, as Slender the 8 Pages would break ground as a horror title that influenced the indie horror genre. In this game, you ran around a forest, which held a select amount of landmarks and 8 pages. These pages resembled children's drawings, warning the player about Slenderman. With every page you collect, Slenderman will get more aggressive in chasing you down. The booming atmosphere and dark tone put this game at the top of horror titles around the time. And while many other iterations of this game would be made, this was the one that inspired many creators. The scariest thing about this notoriety is that it did exactly what Slenderman wanted. It spread his influence, reaching wider audiences than before. That was the plan. And the world is only getting more connected. So as one last warning, remember that some things are better left buried, swept away by the sands of time. The decade of Slender was coming to a close, with less and less people talking about him. And just when I thought it was finally over, people started invoking his name again. I'm seeing him pop up briefly here and there, and before anything goes wrong, and this gets out of hand, I wanted to remind people of the horror that follows, the Slenderman. And with that being said, I think Storytime comes to a close. Feel free to tell me what you think about Slenderman in the comments below, and let me know of other stories you'd like me to tell. Don't forget to leave a like if you did enjoy this content. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you know when the next audio log is up. And until then, wherever each and every one of you are, stay safe and stay curious.